Welcome to another episode of The Power Pit. Today, I'm speaking with Raelle. Raelle is a pro trainer and a holistic nutritionist. Thanks for being on the show, Raelle.
Well, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I want to dive into things here right away. Talk to me a little bit about where you got started on your fitness journey and just what kind of triggered that whole event.
I got married young, and you know that like happy fat marriage feels where you just sort of settle in.
Yep.
And I didn't have any idea what food was and how it affected the body. So I just ate, and we ate out a lot, and we were both working, and so I just didn't have any clue what would happen to me with those actions.
Yep.
So I packed on the pounds. My mom sort of tried to be kind and say, hey, have you thought about this? And have you thought about your health? And I just sort of like went right over my head.
Yeah.
But we all ended up at a family camping trip, and the photos that came back from that trip, I didn't even recognize who I was.
Yeah.
And so that was the like, oh my God, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
So I got home and I stepped on the scale, and that number is something I'd never seen before. It was hitting that 200 mark, right?
Yep.
Right at the edge there. And I think I wallowed in self-pity for a little bit at first. I didn't jump right into, I'm going to do something about it. And it was more, oh, fuck. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I was like, shit. So I started down the rabbit trail of Google.
Yeah.
I don't know how you started with yours, but you just start like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? And you hear about personal trainers, and you kind of think about people that yell at you.
Yep.
You know, in the movies when they're just like, run harder and biggest loser, and
you got to tear them down so we can build them up.
Exactly. And so I didn't go that route in the beginning, and I was kind of I was embarrassed, and I didn't know who to talk to about it. I didn't have anyone in my life who was in the gym, into fitness, so I felt like very ignorant.
Yep.
So I Googled a bunch of things. I ended up on some military diet. You know, that 1,200 calories, hot dog, egg. I don't even know what else. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was so stupid.
There's so many out there.
Right? And I'm sure we'll dive into that in a little bit, but I found a fun dancing PS move. Do you remember the PS move? It's like a Wii.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you're dancing. That's how it started. I was dancing in my living room while I was cooking supper and eating a ridiculous diet.
I think that's actually an awesome way to start. And I love you sharing it.
Oh my God.
Because it's simple.
It's simple, but it's embarrassing.
But I think it's great because I think there are so many people out there that are like, how do I start? What do I have to do? Where do I go?
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, it doesn't have to be hard.
No.
It's like, you start moving your body. Mm-hmm. If it's PlayStation and it's a video game that moves your body and you're having fun, that's the key. So I love that. So, okay, so you're dancing up a storm in your living room.
Yep. Where did I go from there? I couldn't sustain the 1,200 calories, right? So then I just went back to eating what I did before. And of course, the weight goes back on.
Yep.
So I did a bit of that like yo-yo, what am I doing?
Yep.
And then that leads you into all the diets. So I did literally all of them. I went from 1,200 calorie diet to tracking food, but then it didn't matter what I ate. It was 1,200. So military to that.
Yeah.
And then I went into vegan. I tried keto. I tried Mediterranean. I tried Whole30, which actually I don't have any hate towards Whole30. I find it's a good way to learn about whole foods.
Yeah.
But then again, the diet culture of you can only eat this and you can't eat that.
Yeah.
That was frustrating. That moved more to paleo. So honestly, like I've been there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have been there where you're like, I'm going to do this diet and then I'm going to try this and this isn't working. So it has to be this. And someone's telling you that this is the way to do it. And it's very fad.
Yep, it is. It's very fat. And I find a lot of times with those diets is, again, they might be able to get you where you want to go.
Yep.
But the key thing you said there was sustainable.
Yep.
Right? It's not something that you can continue doing. And I've had a conversation actually recently with a client who keeps going back to keto. And I don't have a hate for keto if that's something that you want to do, but it's like the problem that I find with it is people go on it and they lose their 10, 15, 20 pounds and then they go back to eating like an asshole.
Yes.
And then they
learned nothing.
Exactly. And then they gain it back except to gain it back even more.
That's
and
worse.
now there's an additional 5 pounds on top. And then they keep coming back to me. They keep, well, I think I need to go back to keto. It's the only one that worked.
The only thing that works.
And it's like, well, if it worked, like, if it worked, then why aren't you still in that successful point? And we could go down that rabbit hole, which isn't the intention today. But it's like, I understand that struggle, and I know a lot of our viewers have that struggle, and probably are currently still in that struggle. So how did you break out of that? How did you kind of leave diet culture behind?
I ended up meeting with a trainer at our gym, Denise, actually.
Yes.
And
yes. Which gym?
Fitness Focus.
Yeah.
And she sat me down and she asked me a bunch of questions, and my brain just started rolling. And I was like, okay, if she's learned all these things and I'm capable of learning all those things. And at this time I had a baby.
Yep.
Yeah, this is about the right time. So I was like, I can't go back to school full time. I also don't have the time to go back to work full time. I've got like a little kid at home. So I actually just dived right in and took the personal training course. Yeah. Because I was teaching classes as a fitness instructor. So I had like an idea at that point. Yeah. And so
which course was that?
The fitness instructing one?
Yeah.
That was SPRA. Okay. And then CanFit Pro.
CanFit Pro.
With the personal training. Yeah. And so I dived into the knowledge, and I figured if I could just learn everything. Everything perfectly all the time, then I could just crush it. And so I walked out of the personal training course, and I still didn't have what I wanted for nutrition. Yeah. I had the basics, and I was like, okay, I know about macros now. I know what those are. I know that all of food is made up of 3 groups. Oh, wow. Okay. And then all these diets just pull from one of those categories. So I started to wrap my head around, okay, why do these diets work? What isn't working? How can I help my clients more? And then that's what led me into the nutrition studies at the BC College. It's called Alive Academy. Okay. And so that took me 4 years because I'm, again, pregnant, another kid, trying to study and work. And it took me longer than it maybe needed to, but I was just determined. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what took me through my holistic nutrition studies. There's a ghost in here.
There's a ghost in here.
And so that's where I learned about food the most. Yeah. And then that took me through, okay, how do you build a meal plan for different people? Yep. And what they eat? Because you have different cultures coming in, right? We have people who really love their rice. We have people who really love this. So how do you build meal plans around that? And so I honestly ended up learning as I was teaching. Yep. So it all kind of came together. I was like, okay, I do this for me. I can do this for you. And it all built together. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And so, yeah. So you kind of got into that. You went on your journey there. And what, like, I want you to dive into that a little bit more. Like, what was your kind of like your mental state when you made these changes? How were you feeling? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. The dieting in the beginning, I just felt sick of where I was. So I was so sick of that place. And I find people only change when they want to.
Yeah, I agree. You have to.
Right? Like you have to want to. And at that point I was like, okay, I have to. And so that mental state was determined. Yep. And then it got frustrated because obviously the yo-yo dieting and then pulling from different places. So I didn't have stability in my eating until I understood food. I understood macros. I understood calories. I understood calories from my height. I was 5'9". Yep. You can't eat 1,200 calories at 5'9". You can't eat 1,200 calories at 5'9". Okay.
Hey, there are people out there that, right? You know, the amount of times I hear that magic 1,200 calories. Just... yeah. Anyways, that we could go on another podcast about that. But yeah.
So why was I motivated? People are like, oh, how do you stay motivated? It's like, well, I just didn't want to go back to where I was. Yeah. I was so determined for that. And then I saw my kids and I was like, okay, they can't go what I went through. If I start cooking food at home, if I start making my meals in a healthy place, they will learn that. And if I teach them how to cook, they will learn these things because I didn't get that when I was younger. Yeah. I didn't get that as a kid. We ate pasta. That was our go-to. Yeah. It was pasta. No meat in it, right? Like you just carbs.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's growing up on the farm, we always had, it was a can of mushroom soup dumped into with the pasta, some frozen peas, and then slathered in cheese.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lovely.
That was
So good.
I mean, it was the easy thing, right? It was growing up on the farm, and there were times where I'm sure money was tight. I was a kid, so I had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then that was like the meal.
Yeah.
And there were other days it was steak and potatoes.
So we just eat what we've learned.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to change the script. So I was determined more than I was motivated, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an important distinction, is determined more than motivated. Because I'm sure you get asked this a lot. I know I do, is like, how do you stay motivated? How do I, as a client, stay motivated?
Yeah.
Can you make me be motivated? And I can't. Like, I might be able to spark things. I might be able
We
to
can set an appointment.
be a catalyst, right? But at the end of it, it's actually not about motivation.
No.
Because motivation disappears. What it is it's about that determination or that discipline or what a focus or whatever you want to put that word at. It comes down to what's your why, and is your why strong enough for you to change? And I know when I quit smoking, that was one of the things where it was, I had tried multiple times,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to the first couple times. All my friends still did.
Deep down.
I was still in that atmosphere. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For whatever, and you judge me all you want.
No.
It was one of those things that it was just like, yeah, that's what I did. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And then when it really was the why where that really kicked me in the butt was when I was like, my kids are gonna see me leaving events to go smoke. My kids are going to, and it was like, and I like, even though I didn't want to quit at first, I didn't, in the grand scheme of things, I knew it wasn't good for me. I didn't really like the way I woke up in the morning. I didn't like that food didn't really taste like food because I couldn't taste it half the time.
Was that really a symptom?
Yeah, so
Wow.
when smoking a lot, it was like food started to get more bland, so you'd start to use more salt. And
So then what was it for you?
so then it really was pairing all of that together. My kids, really looking at how did it affect me and make me feel. And then it wasn't giving me what I thought it was, right? And then that was when my why, right? And that's where I'm trying to go with this, is like, even for you, is it sounds like it's like, once you get down to that why,
Yes.
that's when that can be the motivation, but then that's what keeps that discipline, that determination moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to find.
I had a client ask me once, like, what do I do with this why? I sometimes forget. Like, it sort of just slips and doesn't stay in the forefront. And I'm like, well, did you write it on your mirror in your bathroom? Did you put a sticky note somewhere where you're going to see it? Do you have something that motivates you? Do you have an activity that you really want to do? Put that on your wall, right? Like, vision boarding is something I love to do, which sounds dorky, but every year I do one.
Yep.
And I think it's important.
I think it is, because it keeps it in that forefront.
Yes.
And you can find your own, however you do it.
Yes.
Whether it's a journal that you got it in, or
Pinterest,
yeah.
magazines.
Exactly.
Would you do it old school?
Yep. I think that is, and it keeps it at that forefront.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk to about clients, or I talk to my clients about.
Yeah.
Is, when it comes to nutrition or working out, it's like, if you don't feel like doing that workout, or you really want to indulge extra, which there's nothing wrong with indulging sometimes.
No.
But if you want to have it, is it what you want? Because is it in line with your values and your why?
Yeah.
Right? And that's where I found it shifted it for clients, where, I had a client, and I don't remember, I tell this story often, so maybe I've told it on this podcast before, but with that is my one client who, when I first met with her, she had wanted to lose weight. And that was what we were going for, but she wasn't losing the weight in the first couple months. So I reset and did a recalibration of the goals, and I found out that weight loss wasn't her goal. It was her husband's goal. And unfortunately, we can unpack that too.
Jesus.
That's what he wanted. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we broke through that with her.
Beautiful.
Right? Because her goal was, she wanted to be able to go to Montreal with her kid.
Okay.
And they had a trip planned in a year.
Yeah.
And they were going to go, and they wanted to do shopping, and they were going to walk, and she wanted to go. That's what she was worried she wasn't going to have the energy for. She was worried she's going to be out of breath. She was worried she's going to be tired, and she was going to limit her son's enjoyment from being able to go to Montreal and do those things. Right. And So when we flipped that script or that why in her brain,
Yep.
all of a sudden the weight started to come off.
Yeah.
It wasn't our focus anymore.
Yeah.
Because now she could see the benefits, and we were doing the things that connected with her why.
She wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super important because I've had people come through my door. Do you know anything about LARPing in the
I
city?
do, yeah.
Okay, so
For any of you that don't know, LARPing is the live action role play.
yeah,
Yeah.
SCA is the community in the city. They're great. You can go check them out. But I had a woman come through, and she was like, "I just want to be able to fight better in my upper body."
Yep.
And I was like, "Okay, we're not going to jump on the treadmill,
Yeah.
right? We're not going to crush it on. We will do some cardio for the, keeping up, but we're not going to just go running." We did these really incredible drills of like you're holding a barbell with no plates. It's like the 10-pound ones, almost like body bars.
Yep.
And we would go through her movements. I was like, "You show me," because I don't know. My husband LARPs,
Yeah.
but I don't know the names and I don't know how to do this exactly. So you show me and I'll show you how we can elevate that and make you stronger.
Yeah.
And so that was her why. But then she actually enjoyed coming because she wasn't the type to be like, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym and I really like the gym and I really want a booty or whatever." That wasn't her thing. She wanted that. But then she came and she did it. I just think it's important that that's in the forefront of your mind.
Yes.
That's your motivation. What do you want?
Absolutely. And what's fun, right?
Yeah.
We're going down this path here of like talking about what do you want, but not only that is like what do you enjoy?
Yes.
Right. So it's like it doesn't, if just because you want to be stronger or change your body composition or
which
go
is
to
a great
Montreal with
goal.
your son,
Yeah.
absolutely, doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that we can't process that and we can't go through with that, right?
Yeah. That's exactly that.
Okay.
So my why turned into the determination, which then turned into changing things. But then I learned. And if I had just stayed with Denise and learned more from her, then I probably would have gotten farther, faster.
Yeah.
Right? I did do it in my own way, and that's great because it worked for me. But if I had sat down with her, even just 3 sessions, probably I would have been like, okay, that gives me a lowdown. That gives me some direction. And even if I want to do studies on top of that, it wouldn't have taken me so long to get to where I wanted to be at that point. So yeah, I think
that's an important lesson.
it is an important
'cause
lesson.
I did the same thing.
It is though. We're
was so
prideful.
stubborn.
It's just like
Yeah.
I shouldn't be asking for help. I'm a very capable person. It's embarrassing. We're talking about things that make us feel bad about ourselves, and it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so, however, now when anyone walks through my door, we close the door. We take a minute, and I'm here for you. I'm here for your goals.
Yeah.
You can tell me anything. It stays here. I have learned to be very compassionate about everybody's place
Yeah.
they'd come from. So
Okay. Awesome.
to learn that.
Yep. And so many different things that we can learn there.
Yes.
So let's keep going on your journey. So, you went, you got certified, you became a trainer, you realized that nutrition
Yeah.
was lacking in your knowledge base. So you went out and learned some of that. How do you now factor that into with your clients?
I still got stuck on the weight,
Yep.
believe it or not. And that's where I got really frustrated. And I was like, maybe it's my hormones. Maybe I'm missing something, because I was really on it. And I ended up at a naturopath in the city. And she was like, "Raelle, I understand that you've gone through this, and this. It's more than anyone I've even talked to has ever even tried.
Yep.
I believe you," which was a big deal,
Yep.
right? She said, "Have you ever thought about food sensitivities?" And I was like, "I don't even know what that is." And after everything I've learned, there are different pieces that I can pick up from different professionals, which is why I love the networking a lot. And she was like, "Oh, well, it's very similar to an allergy. There's IgG for allergy, and there's IgE for food sensitivities." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And she's like, "And it's a test that we do, and it's like a blood test, and you get the results back, and there's green is your good zone, yellow is you can maybe have it sometimes, and red is your okay, that's causing you inflammation, which is sort of like a ball rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the thing that's the problem, but if your guts aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then you're not going to process the food properly and you're not going to, right? And I was like, oh, okay, that might just be it. And sure enough, I lost like 50 pounds in 6 months. It was just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But I was already on top of everything else, right? I don't want to say that and people be like, oh, that's like, there's so many pieces to the puzzle,
Yes.
is what I like to say. It's like, okay, we need this piece and then we need to get this piece and then this piece. And for some people, after all that, it is hormones. It's a very low percentage, but it's there. Men too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's what can be frustrating about it, is that it is this piece and it is this piece and it all fits together. And the problem is, on our journey in our lives, or we find this piece and we find this piece, but we don't realize they go together or at the right time.
Or you just do one at the time and then switch.
And you switch, and it's actually all of these things that play together.
Yes.
And that's where having a coach or having someone who has walked through, and not every coach is at that level.
Yeah.
Not every coach has all the answers. In fact, no coach has, in my opinion, I've been able to find, that has every single piece.
Well, and that's why we niche out.
And that's exactly
right.
why
That's why we have things that we do, because we've learned from our mistakes or we've learned from the things that we struggled with. And those are usually the things that we end up going into, which is why I do what I do and why you do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then I contacted the lab out in Toronto because we couldn't do this testing in Canada for a very long time. I was actually some of the first people that took that in. So it was through Rocky Mountain in the US. And then finally in Toronto, they opened a lab called Fit Labs. And so they're the ones I send blood work off to.
Okay.
And so now with the people that I think that's an issue, because it's not everybody, but if I notice someone's like, okay, really struggling with food, they've been doing what I'm asking them to do, and it's still not working, then I sometimes suggest, hey, like, have you heard about this? Here's the information on it. Check it out. Let me know what you think, and we can go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super helpful.
Absolutely. And it brings that extra, more information in to plug into that puzzle so that we can move forward.
Yeah. People always ask me, what are the most common ones? And they're like, oh, we hear dairy and gluten are so bad. It's like, well, actually, sometimes those come up a lot. Yep. But I've had a client who couldn't have pork and couldn't have turkey or chicken. And that's their bodybuilder diet, is chicken, right? Like a lot of the times that's high protein, it's lower fat. So it was just weird things that would come up for people. And sure enough, right?
Yep.
Just that extra piece. So that's what led me
Out of
there.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Just because I had ran into a situation, you just had mentioned chicken.
Yeah.
I ran into a situation where a lady was eating, she thought she had a sensitivity to chicken.
Yeah.
But it turns out it was a sensitivity to corn. And so it depended on the chicken breast she ate and what it was fed.
Yep.
Have you ran into that kind of stuff before? Yeah.
Yeah. That's very sensitive.
Yeah.
That's like the animal eating the thing that then, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, I have, but that's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about the frustration.
Really, though?
For her clients is, it's like, wait, so I can eat chicken, but I can't eat chicken if it ate corn. Right? It can be frustrating, on where to go next. And I think we're going into kind of getting down and into if you haven't tried if you've tried everything, you're not sure where to go, looking into those things. And I think a lot of people, we have a tendency to want to jump to those.
Yes.
Which
yes.
Right. We don't want to.
There's no quick fix.
Yeah. I guess that's where I was exactly.
Yeah.
Is they look at I'll just go do the
I'll just do that. Yeah.
I think as soon as I figure that out, everything's perfect. I said, well, no, you still need to exercise.
Still need to move your body.
Need to do your cardio.
Yes.
You still need to,
eat well. We're not going to eat just because you can't have dairy doesn't mean you still eat McDonald's burgers without cheese all the time.
Yeah.
So just
yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's funny how we rationalize some of those things. I remember, and this is so many years ago, but dating a girl who was a vegan, but all she ate was Oreo and Kraft Dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Because those were vegan
the best
things.
parts
I don't remember her eating a vegetable. Unless they were I remember Taco Time used to have a 99-cent vegan wraps.
Yeah.
And she would eat those, and there might have been vegetables in that, but
it's too funny.
Yeah.
When I did go through 6 months of vegan, it was not, at that point, it was not because of my weight. It was because I'd watched that stupid documentary on Netflix.
There was a.
I don't even remember the name.
Name it.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to, but I was like, me and my brother were like, okay, let's do this. But at this point, I knew my food sensitivities. So it was like vegan, but on hard mode.
Yeah.
And so I was eating like beans and rice and like mixing things together to get the right ratios of my macros. And it was just ridiculous. But I then had, after that experience, because I went back to meat, I'm a big meat girl. I
I
have a cow in my freezer. I can't live like that. And my body didn't love it, which makes sense. But from that experience, I have had vegans come through my door, and that's their life and that's their lifestyle. And they've been like, I need a meal plan and I need it based around this. And I'm like, I got you, girl. Like, I know exactly what you need. So it has helped me, but I will not probably say that that's where I live anymore.
Yeah, and that's my boat too. I would like to, because I also like to try the fad diet. Like if one, I tried them.
It's
the
good to
majority
understand
of
them.
when I was on my weight
Sure,
loss
on your journey. Yeah.
I had tried a lot of them, but then even now as a coach, you know, I want to try them so that I can relate to my clients. And again, I'm not doing them as a long as a
Long
lifestyle.
term. Yeah.
I just want to see what is it like. So if people have questions about it, I can honestly be like, well, when I did it,
Yep.
this is what it was like.
Yep.
This is why I didn't like it. This is why I did. Because I want people to make their own decisions.
Because research is one thing, and then they'll be like, oh, but like, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I also want to know what it feels like,
Yeah.
what different things pop up, and
Yeah.
and I'm also the same as a coach, right? So it's like when I develop a program, I've done the program,
Yeah.
right? Like I've went through it, I've done it.
Yeah.
It's work, like I've worked out, because I want to see what is it like for me.
Yeah.
And then I also have to filter it through the skill level, because I've got clients that are more athletic than I am,
Right.
and I've got clients that are less athletic than I am, and I need to know, like, if with this program, how do I think and extrapolate to how like they're gonna
feel in that
depending on
moment.
where
Yeah.
they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about our app too, is that they can gauge it, how hard the
Yes.
workout was. I really like that feature because they can be like, oh, that was a 5 out of 10. And I can be like, okay, I need to up it a little bit for you next time then. Or they're like, that was a 1 out of 10. And I'm like, did you miss this this part of the tell me how hard it was? And then I'll like message them later. And I'm like, okay, I just need to know, was that actually 1 out of 10 or did you just skip over that? They're like, oh yeah, I was dying. I just skipped over that part.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is
good.
funny
Wow.
when we ask clients to rate.
Yes.
Like add that too, where I'm like, because I do semi-private, where I've
Yes.
where I've got a group of people. They're all on their own program,
Right.
and then I oversee it as a trainer.
Yeah.
And so with that is one where like at the end in like you said in the app they rate what it is. I've had people where they've rated it as a 1, and I'm like, you were dying, like I had to come over and help you with those lunges and that you've done before, because we had amped up, and then
Oh my
same sort of thing. And
God.
sometimes it's exactly like you said, sometimes they've glossed over it.
Yeah, they just didn't think about it, or yeah.
Other times
But we need the feedback.
they're like, well, no, it wasn't that hard. I'm like, okay.
If
Like,
I'd upped it in that moment.
but sometimes it comes down to, even with that, is knowing your client.
Yeah.
Because sometimes our clients are so hard on themselves that even though it was hard for them, they look and they're like, this
I
should
could have done more,
been
and I
so
I
hard.
shouldn't have taken that rest,
Yeah.
and
I should have done more, and then they're like, well, the workout actually would have been easy for someone else, so I need to, right, like 'cause
Brutal.
I've ran into that a couple times, and it's like, again, we gotta work
Absolutely.
through that side.
But then this comes into like misconceptions about the industry.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill yourself to get a good workout in. I've had moments where I'm just done and I've headed to the gym and I've got nothing in the tank, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to start with 5 minutes on the treadmill, and I just walk and I get my head just to relax and everything comes down. And then after 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, maybe I will do some weights, and I'll just go sit on a machine and do, right? Like,
Yep.
I got it in. It doesn't have to be killer all the time.
And that's again something that as coaches we need to recognize, because I know coaches out there that are all about like, well, you should be puking after your leg day, and it's like, there's a time and a place for that. I'm gonna say, like, depending on who you are, there's a time and a place that you need to push yourself.
Yeah.
But generally, it shouldn't be every leg workout that you're out behind the gym puking. It shouldn't be every workout that the next day or two you can't move or get out of bed or use the toilet. It's like
that's the big one.
Exactly. I hear so many clients when they first start.
Get off the toilet.
Yeah. And it's like no, it's like, as coaches, we need to recognize that you have to train your client to their capacity. We don't want to push them past their capacity.
No.
Eventually their capacity will increase and those workouts will get there. But it makes me think of my one client who had went to a different gym, a different trainer, and did a workout with her, and he was puking in the corner.
Yeah.
And he was like, his words were, he's like, here I am vomiting in front of this beautiful woman. He's like, do you think I'm ever gonna step foot in this gym again? He's like, it totally humiliated me. And he's like, and then didn't step in a gym for years.
A woman's leg day.
And it was one of those things where, I mean, part of it, he needs to get over his ego a little bit too. But on the flip side, as coaches, we got to remember that, like, not everyone wants to be pushed that hard, and especially on their first day.
Yeah.
Right. And it can be hard, because I've ran into that too, where I've pushed.
That's where people get nervous to come in.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And it's, yeah. And sometimes it takes a while to find that, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember as a coach having someone and leaving our expectations out the wind, what we think people should do. Because I remember with having one guy come in, and we started doing a workout, and we did 3 sets of, I think it was 4 squats, and he was like gassed and couldn't go anymore. And like, of course, I was like, well, come on, man, 3 sets of whatever it was, 3 sets of 3 or whatever. I was like, come on, let's go on to the next thing. And I was like, because I felt, well, no, man, like, you should be able to do more. And there is a fine line in coaching where it's like, it is our job to push you, because there are people who will sandbag. But
you can tell when people are like,
it was like,
I'm good, I'm done, and I'm like,
no, you're not. But this was one where with this guy, I knew he wasn't, but I was like, that's so little in my mind. And I don't want anyone to think that actually is, because if that's where you're at, that's do what you can do. And there are people that are at that point. But again, this was early in my career as a trainer, and it was just like, well, you should be able to do more. I'm trying to help you. You got to do more. And now I've learned that it's like, we have to meet our clients where we're at. And this is a common theme with this podcast. It's a common theme with why I talk about changing your story.
Yes.
Is we need to meet people where they are at in their story and bring them through to that.
But then that is something that comes with time.
Yes.
Because we learn pretty quickly that, oh, yes, this person can't. This person can. And then we learn to gauge. But then that's why the first initial sessions are nice, because we're just doing assessments, and we're just doing light workouts, and here's how to use the machines, and walk you through the gym. And I've learned to do it more like that than it used to be, when you're just like, okay, let's go, let's do it.
Exactly. And I think that's important for our viewers to pay attention to, is if they are looking for a trainer, is like, you want that trainer that's going to take you through the movements. You want that trainer that's going to assess you, that's going to coach you, that's going to meet you where you're at and grow, and not just throw you into a generic workout. Same thing with group classes too. I think sometimes people forget, is just jumping in. If it's hard, doesn't mean stop doing those classes. It means find one that is an entry level for you and where you're at.
And also, don't be afraid to modify it, because I'm also an instructor, and I've had people in the back of the corner of a room doing, knee push-ups, and we're doing push-ups from our toes. I'm not sitting there judging you. Absolutely not. I'm like, whoa, that person knows how to modify. That's perfect. That's exactly where they're at in this class. There's also 20 of you in there. I'm not able to come around and be like, oh, can we work on your form? Oh, can we fix this? Oh, can we? Right? So it's my job to show the modifications, and it's your job to pick which one works for you. And I just wish more people took that into consideration of, oh yeah, if I just do this for me, I don't need to listen to the yelling instructor at the front of the room and kill myself every workout. Yes. I think that I think our clients would do better if they could just relax a little bit.
Yeah. And again, is because there's
believe in themselves a little bit.
Exactly. Believe in yourself, which is a start. And just realize that it's like, we've all been on that journey, and we've all been there. And it's like, you just got to start. You just got to do. And 9 times out of 10, no one's looking at you. And if someone is, and they're going to be a dick about it, then
They
the
can
problem is that
leave.
person, right? So yeah. So awesome. Like, I've had a great conversation so far. Something I did want to touch on is you and I have started working on building a community of fitness professionals.
Yes.
Especially here in Saskatoon, but not just Saskatoon, is in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times in Saskatchewan, we don't get the courses, we don't get the programs, we don't get the seminars. The other provinces do.
Yep.
And I get it. Our population isn't necessarily gonna fill those out.
Sure.
But we really want to start to connect. Is even if we're not getting those, is can we get these trainers, these fitness instructors, to really start collaborating and working together? Because I believe that there's a piece of the pie for everyone, and
Yes.
we all learn from each other and help each other. So you know, I think I've done enough talking about it here. I want you to pass it to you and like your vision with it and how you want to see this grow.
Well, when I reached out to CanFit Pro, I didn't know that you were starting this. And so I had this idea in my head that was very fuzzy. You know how sometimes you're like, clear goal, I know what I want. Cool. This was more like, okay, no one talks to each other about things. No one collaborates. We don't do fun things. We don't, you know, I don't know a lot of trainers in the city who are like, these are my 5 best trainers that I love hanging out with, and we share stories and we laugh over, you know, drinks over whatever. And so in my mind and in our small little gym, we started doing that just together.
Yeah. And that's the thing, not that it doesn't happen.
No.
But I think we want to see it bigger.
Exactly.
Right?
And I was like, how can we take this to the next level? And I didn't see anyone doing it. So it was just so cool that they connected us and that we could do this together because, A, it's good for all of us.
Yeah.
And B, it's good for our clients. And C, it is fun.
Yes.
So that my vision is just the community and the knowledge, boosting where to find new resources for things. Even my studies for nutrition, that wasn't in Saskatoon. That wasn't in person. So how can more people learn about those things? How can we spread that? How can we collaborate and do fun things and bring fun events? And I just think that'll be great.
Awesome. So we've got a lot of things in the work that I'm excited for 2025.
I'm so excited.
Things that we want to bring and get going here. So people will see more of that. But that's where I want to kick to you. Where can they find that, and where can they find you online?
Right. So Saskatchewan Fitness Professionals is our Facebook group. That's where you can join, and we'll put you in there. Me personally, I just leave it my name still. It's Raelle Marie on Instagram, and TrainEatSmart is the business title, and I do have a website. It talks about the food sensitivity stuff in there, and you can link in my bio, whatever. But I've just always kept in my name. I think I didn't like going online in the beginning. That was not, being in front of the camera was not my thing. And I was old school and didn't even know how to use Instagram when all that came out. And then COVID hit, and we were all like, well, gyms are closed, but we still need to help these people. How do we do this? And so that's what sort of catalysted the online stuff.
Yeah.
So I am not a fitness influencer, but I do love being able to reach the people in rural Saskatchewan. Yeah. And I really love being able to expand that knowledge throughout the province.
Absolutely.
So I did really appreciate that about online stuff. Yeah.
Yep. It is. Online is that it breaks down some of those barriers and makes it more accessible.
Yeah, that's really a big deal. Because even if they can come in for a session once a month because they're in the city, and then they go do their program at home, right? We can mix it. And I just think that's so key.
Yeah, especially that hybrid training.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Podcast. It was a great discussion. And I'm looking forward to having many more of those in the future. So thank you very much. And for our viewers and listeners out there, you're listening to the Power Pit podcast, and I hope that today's episode, gave you some advice, some tidbits, some insight into how you might be able to change your story. If you would like to start that journey and make that next step, you can reach out to myself. You know how to find me at PitFitSask, or you can reach out to Raelle as well, Raelle Marie, on Instagram, and we'll go from there. So we're here to support, we're here to help, and we'll see you next episode.